Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Gishki deck profile. So I'm really excited for this deck because it's actually been a while since I updated this build, and I have changed up the way that this deck plays a lot. Ever since Gishki Gust Kraken got taken back to 3, this deck has absolutely changed, and it's absolutely crazy the way that this deck plays. It's a really fun deck to play with, and you guys should definitely give it a try because you can rip your opponent's hand for multiple cards, which is what's really amazing about the way the deck plays. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like getting your name in the description every single video, getting a signed card sent in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron along with test hands. And without further ado guys, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Gishki Gust Kraken. So Gust Kraken is going to be the main card that you're going to be ritual summoning in this deck. I actually play 2 of the rituals in this particular build, and what this card does is you can ritual summon this card with any Gishki ritual spell card. And when this card is ritual summoned, look at 2 random cards in your opponent's hand and then shuffle 1 of them into the deck, which is a very powerful effect. This card was at 1 for a very long time because of that effect, and it's just an overall really amazing card because you can loot through multiples of these per turn to be able to rip multiple cards out of your opponent's hand, and every card that they start with less is better for us. We then play 3 copies of Gishki Yugioh. Yugioh, I really like this from my previous build, and so I kind of stuck around with it. You can play Mind August if you want to play 3 Mind August instead, but I like to play 3 copies of Yugioh over the copy of the Mind August, because what this card does is you can ritual summon this card with any Gishki ritual spell, and then once per turn you can pay 1,000 life points, and then you get to draw a card, and if you do, reveal it, and if it was a Gishki monster, then you get to shuffle a random card on the field into the deck, and it's a 3,200 beat stick. So it can help you get some really amazing plays, and it's kind of like the oomph of the deck for me, and so I really like playing this card as a 3 of. We then play 3 copies of Gishki Shadow. Gishki Shadow is really powerful because if you ritual summon exactly 1 water monster, you can use this card as the entire tribute, and also you can discard this card to add a Gishki ritual spell card from your deck to your hand. Now, fun fact for you guys, actually Gishki means ritual. So when I say Gishki ritual, I'm kind of being redundant, which is kind of funny about this particular deck because Gishki literally means ritual. So I thought that was a little fun fact for you guys. It's actually the precursor to Necros, and this was a dual terminal deck that actually was totally based around the precursor to what Necros became. We then play 3 copies of Gishki Vision. Gishki Vision is really, really amazing because if you're going to ritual summon exactly 1 Gishki monster, it's a water ritual monster, then you can use this card as the entire tribute, and also you can discard this card to add a Gishki ritual monster from your deck to your hand, which is a pretty good effect to be able to add a Gishki monster from your deck to your hand, and you can add the Gishki spell with Shadow. So I really like that effect, and they're really amazing to play each at 3 because you get all those amazing effects with each one of these cards. We then play 3 copies of Gishki Abyss. I'm leaning a little bit more heavy towards the Gishki monsters opposed to not with this particular build because I am playing Yugioh in this particular build, and Yugioh does require us to draw Gishki cards, so I do need more Gishki monsters in this particular lineup, and the deck works very well this way. So when this card is summoned, you get to add any Gishki monster from your deck to your hand with a less than 1,000 defense, which is really amazing because Vision, your copy of Yugioh, your copy of Shadow, and Gust Kraken all have less than 1,000. Literally any of your Gishki monsters, except for the next one, all have less than that. So it's really like you can search any card that's currently on the screen for you guys. You can actually search any of those except for Abyss. So any of this top row, you can search any of those monsters off of normal summoning your Gishki Abyss, which is going to be basically your only normal summon in the entire deck, except for the following card, which we're going to be playing 3 copies of Gishki Beast. Now, this is the only other normal summon I play in this particular deck, because when this card is normal summon, you get to add 1, or you get to target 1 level 4 or lower Gishki monster in the graveyard and special summon that target in face-up defense position, which is why we're on the Totally Awesome map. Because it has the ability to use that really amazing effect, you can actually bring back your Shadow to then overlay your copy of Shadow and Beast to make a Bahamut Shark to be able to special summon that Totally Awesome to give you additional negations for whatever cards your opponent has left after you've ripped their cards out of their hand with your Gishki Gust Kraken. So this card is really powerful to just give you additional negations on your side of the field and help you go into some really amazing plays. So that's it for the Gishki monsters. Let's get into the Incantations, because this is actually an Incantation build of this particular deck. So for the Incantations, I'm going to be playing 2 copies of Chalice Slime. Chalice Slime is a 2 of for me, so it's totally fine. You don't need 3. What this card does is you basically reveal this card in your hand, discard a card, and then you can special summon any incantation from your deck that's a monster. And then it also has the ability that if you don't use it, or if you don't ritual summon this turn, you lose 2,500 life points, which does kind of suck. But it also has the ability that if this card's on your side of the field, you can send an incantation card from your hand or face from your field to the graveyard to target a monster your opponent controls and destroy it, which is pretty good on a 2,500 beat stick. We then play 2 copies of Talismandra. Talismandra works with ritual monsters. You reveal this card and a ritual monster in your hand. Deal special summon this and another incantation from the deck. And if you do special summon this card off of an incantation effect, except its own, you get to add a ritual monster from your deck to your hand. We then play 2 copies of Kandal. Kandal has the exact same effect as your copy of Talismandra, except it works with ritual spells, which is pretty neat. 1 copy of Bookstone, because Bookstone is kind of neat to retrieve your ritual spells from your graveyard, because this card lets you reveal a ritual spell in your hand, special summon this, and an incantation from the deck. And if this card is special summoned by the effect of a incantation, or if it's special summoned from the deck, then you get to target 1 ritual spell in the graveyard and add it to your hand, which is pretty powerful. 1 copy of Pencil Plume as well. Pencil Plume lets you add a ritual monster from your graveyard to your hand if it's special summoned from the deck, and it also shares the ability that you reveal this and a ritual monster to special summon both this and another incantation from the deck, which is pretty good. We then play 3 copies of Zaborg, the Mega Monarch. I'm playing it very similar to the way I play my Necros deck, because I'm using the incantations. I can tribute them off to be able to then normal summon this card out to the field, pop itself, and then after I pop itself, I can then send to the graveyard a bunch of cards from the extra deck. I'm not super extra deck focused in this particular deck build. I'm usually just trying to rip cards out of my opponent's extra deck and their hand. And so this card is very powerful because you can rip 8 cards out of your opponent's extra deck and you get to choose them. And then you can send stuff like Totally Awesome, Cyframe Lord Omega. You can send stuff like Elder Entity Nist. You can send Skullbone or Skull Knight. You can send that to the graveyard, and there's just so many Arclight to get you 3 searches. Like, there's just so many cards in the extra deck that you can just send to the graveyard with Zaborg, and using this very small engine to be able to send them to the graveyard is really fast. We then play 3 copies of Cyframe Gear Gamma, because it helps you out in a ritual deck a lot of the times, because it's just really, really important. And 1 copy of Driver, because you just don't want to get hand trapped in this deck. It's very important that you don't get hand trapped. And using your copy of Cyframe Gear Gamma and Driver is just really, really important to make it so you don't get hand trapped as easily. And like I said, you're not super focused on the extra deck because your incantations do lock you out of the extra deck, but it's still pretty good to be able to play these and be able to go into all those additional plays. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the very few spells we're playing in this deck. So for the very few spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Called by the Grave, because you really don't want to get hand trapped in this deck. You're playing 2 copies of Salvage, because Salvage lets you target 2 water monsters in the grave with 1,500 or less attack, and add them to your hand, which is literally any of the monsters that are not ritual monsters, that are your Gishki monsters between Shadow, Vision, Abyss, and Beast. You can add any of those back from your graveyard to your hand with Salvage, so I like to play it as a 2 of in this particular deck. 1 copy of Incantation Inception. Incantation Inception is basically just an additional ritual spell for the deck that you can use to ritual summon out any of your monsters. And then we play 3 copies of Gishki Aquamirror, which ironically enough ends up turning into the Necros Mirror, which is kind of cool. But what this card does is it can be used to ritual summon any Gishki ritual monster, and you tribute monsters from your field and or hand whose total level equal or exceed or equal the level of the ritual monster you are ritual summoning. And you can also shuffle this card from the graveyard into the deck to target a Gishki ritual monster in your graveyard and return that target to your hand. So it's a really powerful card just to be able to get all those effects in one tight little basically ritual spell. I really love this card, and it really makes the whole deck function, and is really amazing to be able to use this card. To be able to ritual summon into Gustkraken and into your copy of Zel'Gigas is just really, really, really nice. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing my boy, Totally Awesome. You got to play 3 copies of Totally Awesome. This is a Borg target, and it is also a target that you can special summon off your copy of Bahamut Shark, which we just played 1 copy of Bahamut Shark. Like, I think there's only 4 cards that I ever even summon in the entire extra deck, so it's not super important to hit the extra deck with my copy of Zaborg, because I can just kind of play around it. Like, I can leave one Toad in the extra deck. I have plenty of other targets with Zaborg to make my Bahamut Shark still alive off a copy of Beast. We then play a single copy of Abyss Dweller. The Abyss Dweller is basically here to lock my opponent out of their graveyard, which is really, really nice. And plus, since it's a water deck, it does make my monsters go up by 500, which is really nice. One copy of number 39, Utopia Beyond. I use my 2 copies of Gustkraken if I can get them on the field. At the same time, if I can get multiple copies of Gustkraken, which usually you do, you can use this card to help OTK your opponent if they already have a couple of monsters on the field. You play a single copy of Super Dreadnought Cannon Gustav Max. Gustav Max is just here to burn your opponent for additional life points. You can use 2 Zelgigoses to go into this. And then a single copy of Juggernaut Libby. The Juggernaut Libby is here because you can use it on top of your Gustav Max to then attack your opponent and OTK them with double Zelgigos. It's really easy to overlay both of those level 10 monsters into a copy of Dreadnought and then go into your copy of Libby to be able to OTK. You play a single copy of Cyframe Lord Omega, because Omega is just really good with your Cyframe package to rip additional cards out of your opponent's hand. One copy of Wind Pegasus. Wind Pegasus is kind of one of those cards you guys are looking at and going, why? But this card is actually a really great card to send to the graveyard off your copy of Zaborg because of the last text on this card. That, you can manage this card from the graveyard to target a card your opponent controls and shuffle it into the deck. That's really good. It gives you an additional shuffle if something can't be destroyed by card effects, and it gets bounces something off the field, which is just amazing. We play 3 copies of Herald of the Arclight because we're playing Zaborg, because this card is ridiculous in this deck. You can send any number, or it has the ability to, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add a ritual monster or a ritual spell from your deck to your hand. So basically, when you summon Zaborg, you're going to have plenty of targets to go off with. And we'll go off really quickly at the end of the deck profile what your main targets are actually going to be when you summon Zaborg, what the 8 are. We then play a single copy of Elder Entity Nist. When this card is sent to the graveyard, you get to target a card on the field and destroy it. And then a single copy of Fossil Warrior Skull Knight. This card is also one of those cards that you send to the graveyard, and then you can banish it from the grave to target a card on the field and destroy it. So your main 8, that when you summon your Zaborg to your side of the field that you're going to send, is going to be a copy of Fossil Warrior Skull Knight, Elder Entity Nist, 3 copies of Herald of the Arclight, 1 Wind Pegasus, and then 2 copies of Toad is going to be the main ones that you're going to usually send to the graveyard to be able to get all those really amazing plays, because then it'll still leave you with the 1 Toad, this whole top row, and a copy of Omega. So basically, it will leave you with this right here on the top row, and these on the bottom row are what you will normally send to the graveyard off of your Zaborg. So these are Zaborg targets. These are the ones you're going to try and keep, and these are the ones that you mainly will go into. Now you can interchange it out a little bit. Instead of sending the Elder Entity Nist, if it's first turn, you can keep the Elder Entity Nist and send the copy of Omega to then use Omega's effect. So it can interchange very mildly on what you're going to send. Or if you need extra adds and you don't feel like you're going to go into the copy of Toad, you can change it out where you're trying to get more adds off your copies of your cards. This card can get really helpful to be able to do that. So it's kind of up to you the way that you want to play when you go for Zaborg. But Zaborg is really, really, really helpful to use in this particular deck because you have all those really, really crazy plays that you can use and send to the graveyard. Like literally Zaborg turns into like a +6 if you get it to go off just right. So that's it for the deck, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Definitely tell me what you think of this deck down in the comments down below. I think it's ridiculously fun to play with. I think it's a weird kind of variant of Gishki. Now, usually the traditional version doesn't play Zelgigos, but I love Zelgigos in this particular deck. You can change it out, like I said before, for Mind August, but I don't feel like it's really necessary. I like the Zelgigos. It does a lot of damage against your opponent and shuffle cards on the field back and just bounce them, which is nice. So that's it for this, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can come part of notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down the description below for all those awesome rewards. And we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.